This is my 1988 944 Turbo S Silver Rose Edition. I am going to change the water pump on it. Actually, I have to reseal the gasket on the water pump. It has a slight leak on it, and in the process I'm going to pull the timing belts off and all of that, and I'll have to put it all back together. I thought this could be a video tutorial on timing belt change and a water pump change. So to start with, I'm just going to start by taking apart the whole intake tract, starting with the air filter, the airflow meter, the intercooler hard pipes, the distributor, the spark plug wires, and just start getting it down so I can get to the timing belt covers. At this point, I've removed the rotor and the little dust shield that goes behind the rotor here. I've removed most of the bolts on the top cover. Right now, the fan belts, the power steering belt, and the alternator belt are in the way. I am going to raise the car up, undo the oil drip pan and splash guard, and then work from the bottom. Now that the oil pan is off, I'm going to undo the belts to the power steering pump and to the alternator, and then start working on the cover bolts from down here. So what I've just done is, with the socket on the front crank pulley, I've turned the engine so it's at TDC. Now, I have had this apart before, and I don't know if it's visible through here, but I've painted a little white line on that little notch that is on the flywheel. So when it's lined up with that slot right there on the bottom of the bell housing, I know that it's at top dead center. On my bottom balance shaft pulley, which is this lower pulley here, there's this plastic tang on the cover, and there's a little notch on the back of the pulley. I'm not sure if that's visible or not, but that is the timing mark for the balance, for the lower balance shaft. So that is lined up. I know that that's at top dead center. Now, because I'm going to take the water pump off, I have to take the front crank pulley off so I can get this back cover off of the engine. If you're just doing timing belts, you won't need to take the pulley off or this back cover off. You can just loosen up the timing belts. I'm going to lower the car and show you what it looks like from the top. So here I've removed the top cover as well, so you can see inside the timing belt system. So this belt has ridges on both sides. This is your balance shaft belt, and this is your top balance shaft. And again, you can see this notch on the back of the pulley is lined up with this notch in the housing. It's not lined up exactly right, just because that's the way it falls because of the spacing of the cogs. That's the proper position. So down here, inside the triangle of your balance shaft belt is your tensioner. This is the late style tensioner, the automatic tensioner. I have checked this tensioner with a tool and it's right on, so I don't bother using a tensioning tool for the timing belt. I just let this tensioner do its job. And then this balance shaft belt here, you want it to be not terribly tight, but not floppy loose. This is about the right tension for it, just by feel. You can kind of give it a little push. You can kind of see it vibrate there. I'm not using a lot of force to deflect it. This is your timing belt idler, or your balance shaft belt idler pulley. And it is just to be in place to support the balance shaft belt from vibrating. And it's placed so that it can actually spin freely. It doesn't have the belt touching it enough to really create much drag to stop it from spinning, but the belt doesn't have to move very far to touch it. That's the proper adjustment for this. It also spins quietly, so the bearings are good. I don't need to replace that. It'll get kind of dried out and sometimes sound a little scratchy. This pulley in here, this is your timing belt idler pulley, and this is not adjustable, but again, the bearings feel pretty good. And this is your water pump drive. So your water pump is driven from the back side of the timing belt. Your balance shaft belt runs off of the big pulley on the crankshaft, and then behind it, might be a little hard to see, is a smaller pulley, and that's what runs the camshaft belt, the timing belt. Now that the cover is off of the cam gear here, the distributor drive, you can see this notch right here in the gear. That notch lines up with that notch on the housing. So that's the cam gear timing. Now because I need to take the front crank pulley off to get the water pump off, I'm actually going to jack the car back up, remove the starter, and install a flywheel lock so I can hold the crankshaft in one position while I put a breaker bar on the front of that pulley to break it loose.